Beyond the Mic with Sean Dillon.
We're joined on the Starline by a Broadway actress and singer. You've seen her in Hair, Momma Mia, Dogfight and Carrie. She's currently touring as Peggy Schuyler, Maria Reynolds, in the Broadway tour of Hamilton. We welcome Jen Sese.
Thank you very much. Well, happy to be here.
Jen, let's go beyond the mic. How does it feel to play in the most Tony Award nominated production Hamilton? It's got to blow your mind.
It absolutely does. It's honestly such a privilege and such a meaningful experience. I mean, I've been involved in musical theater for a very long time at this point. And honestly, to be just involved with a show where you say the title and people have this reaction where it's such a staple in, the zeitgeist and part of culture now. And like the recognition of the show is one aspect that is honestly very cool. Like it's just after doing something that is being part of a profession for so long that kind of exists with only in the people that appreciate it, to do something that has like permeated the entire populace is like nothing else. So that's really cool. But also just the meaning of the show and like what it means to me and what it means to the public is another aspect of it that just makes it, it's a once in a lifetime, truly.
Compare and contrast your very first play growing up versus Hamilton. Do you remember what it was?
Well, growing up, so I split my formative years kind of all over the Midwest. But when I was really young in Lexington, Kentucky, there was a high school that the head of the theater program there used to love to bring in like young local children to play the actual children in the show, which was this amazing. Her name is Cindy Kewen, director, a phenomenal decision, because it was so cool in second grade to be performing at that point with high schoolers, right? Who felt like these big adults. And yeah, exactly. To get to do that at such an early age is really how I started. So how it compares, I guess, at that point it's all about scale and what you know. And like, to me, that felt like a huge thing. Like I was surrounded by these high schoolers, like these older adults that seemed to be, that were so talented. And I was Amaryllis in the Music Man. And so getting to sing duets with our Marion at the time. And it was such a meaningful experience, and it's what started me down this road. So, I think everyone has a moment when they got to perform for the first time at whatever point in life that was. And they realized that this was something special. This was something meaningful. This was something that, you could identify in and find yourself and express yourself in a way that was unique. And so I think that those formative experiences are always extremely special as the ones that are then, professional and set your career.
Your first national tour was in Hair. Mm-hmm. How did that tour production prepare you for today?
Professionally, Hair was I feel very fortunate that I've been involved with a few long runs, and they've all been really wonderful shows. Hair was a very different show in terms of how it was received by audiences. It was definitely a popular show at the time after the revival they did on Broadway, but it did not have the same notoriety that Hamilton did. However, Hair was a really unique piece insofar as the relationship with the audience and the messaging about that show I feel very lucky to have been in part of another show that also had a very strong opinion on culture and was trying to make a statement and trying to make an impression on audiences. And also, honestly, it was another show that was very athletic. We were all on stage at all times. So just in terms of getting my chops up to be in a show like Hamilton, which is, a hard show. It's a long show. We are all on stage almost the entire time. Learning what that felt like was also just helpful and prepared me for that. But, they were I feel fortunate that they were very different shows, and the performance, the way I got to engage in performing was very different. However, they were both very meaningful, and you could put your heart into it and felt like you were reaching somebody and saying something important every night, which was really great.
Jen, why do you relate to Peggy?
I love the juxtaposition of the two. I love getting to play two roles within the show. I relate to Peggy because it's great. Our two other Schuyler sisters, our Eliza and our Angelica, the three of us are extremely close. We feel like sisters. So it's really fun to be on stage and get to, just have that very sisterly bond relationship, to be giving each other a hard time and teasing each other throughout the show. And that kind of dynamic, the fact that it feels so true on stage and off stage is really fun. And I kind of like being that little bit of an instigator, being a little bit of an instigator. And, that's enjoyable. I like with Peggy that I get to be, both interacting with my sisters, but then I have a lot more interaction with like the rest of the company throughout the first act, which I really enjoy. And then getting to kind of flip that switch into Mariah is what's really, I think, compelling about the role in its entirety.
Jen Sese from Hamilton joins us beyond the mic for the Rockin' 8. All this is, Jen, is 8 random questions. Answer with the first thing that comes to your mind. There is no pressure.
Okay.
Favorite of all the national parks you visited?
Ooh, national parks. Oh, I love national parks. My first instinct is Zion National Park.
Very cool.
First instinct, because there are some amazing hikes there that are one of a kind.
You're an avid outdoorsman. Mm-hmm. Why was hiking the Grand Canyon rim to rim on your bucket list?
Yes. So when did I go to the Grand Canyon? When I went and visited the Grand Canyon after performing at Pioneer Theater out in Utah, and we did a little road trip afterwards, and we had gone to the Grand Canyon, and we only had a few hours there. And I remember we were hiking down from the North Rim, and I saw these people just moving so quickly, and I was like, what are these people doing? And they were doing a rim to rim. I just thought immediately, I'm not a marathon person. I just thought that's my version of a marathon. I want to make it all the way down to the bottom, and I want to go all the way up. And also, just logistically booking dates to stay at the bottom of the canyon, book out a year in advance. My life has never allowed me to make plans a year in advance because of the nature of what I do. So that seemed like the accessible way for me to be able to do that. So the pandemic brought that opportunity, and it was incredible.
What's another item on your bucket list? On
my bucket list, there's a few other treks. Camino de Santiago, I want to go back to Nepal, is another item on my bucket list. Yeah, I'm an avid, as you have found, I'm an avid trekker and multi-day outdoor enthusiast. But I'm very excited. We're going to Alaska with the show, and I'm going to get to take a vacation in Alaska and go out into the backcountry in Alaska. And that's also a bucket list item. So I have one coming up.
Do you remember the last time you went and watched a Michigan football game, and who was it against?
Ooh. Last time I watched a Michigan football game, I believe it was against Notre Dame. And I think that would have been this was live and in person, but I haven't watched one on TV either. So I believe that would have been in 2011. It's been a long time.
You've been busy.
Yes.
On the road.
Mm-hmm.
Best concert or event you saw at Jones Beach?
At Jones Beach. I think I've only seen one concert out at Jones Beach. I saw 311 there. Again, in 2010. That's the only concert I think I've seen at Jones Beach.
When you were in grade school, Jen, did you make or buy your lunch?
Oh, made my lunch. Well, made my lunch, and then I'd usually supplement with they had a little cafeteria that had food that they brought in, and I would kind of supplement from that as well.
So what magazine would you like to be on the cover of?
Oh, on the cover of? It's not a magazine, but a feature in the New York Times would just be a dream.
Very cool.
Or the New Yorker. Not that they put people on the cover of their magazine, but maybe an illustration.
Best place in the world you have visited that wasn't part of a Broadway tour?
Wasn't part of a tour. Nepal.
And thus the reason you want to go back.
Yes, most definitely. I was fortunate enough. After I booked, I'd wanted to go on a trip to Nepal, and I decided to forego it in order to be around in New York, specifically for a round of Hamilton auditions. And then I booked Hamilton. I was fortunate enough to book Hamilton so quickly that I hadn't missed hiking season in Nepal and had 6 weeks before I started. So I was able to last minute then go actually out to Nepal and hike before I started the show. So it's a special place for me for many reasons for that time of my life too.
What's your favorite dress from when you were an operations associate at Little Borrowed Dress?
Oh. Well, we made and produced bridesmaids dresses for rent. So I never actually wore any of our own dresses because I was never a bridesmaid at that time. So, it was a very specific niche. But we did have this one halter dress that I always thought was the prettiest of them, but it wasn't a line of like commercially produced dress. So they were very specific.
If you're enjoying these conversations, please check out another Beyond the Mic episode to find more actors, artists, and people you need to know. We'd also appreciate a like and subscribe on the Good Pods app. It is time for the back half with Jen Sese from Hamilton Beyond the Mic. And Jen, I always ask this question of Broadway stars because it's one of those things of that joy of getting the gig. Mm-hmm. What was going through your mind when you got the call that said, hey, Jen, you got the job. You're in Hamilton.
Actually, to be honest, I was on a date when I got the call.
You were on a date?
I was on a date. I was on a Bumble date when I got the call. And to be honest, it was not going the best. It was a fine date, but it was not going the best. And I got the call and I thought, I don't want to be here for this like life altering news right now with, basically a stranger. So it's kind of funny. It was kind of a funny story because I kind of excused myself from the date because I was having all of these feelings and I was like, this person doesn't know me, like doesn't know this business. They weren't involved in the business. I was like, they have no idea that my life just changed. Like my whole life just changed. And so then my first call was to my roommate at the time, who is a very close friend, and she is involved in the business and had known I'd been going through the process. And she was actually my first call because I wanted to see if she was home so that I could go home and celebrate with her after leaving my date. And then I called my mom.
What was mom's first thoughts?
Oh, my mom has been, my biggest supporter. And she was just so thrilled for me. She was so thrilled for me because I had actually left the New York aspect of the business for a while. And so to book this job, she knew was just such a dream. And yeah, I think she also knows, with a big show like this, you imagine it's not just an exciting dream, but it represents security. It represents opportunity. It's a big deal to be able to book a show.
Jen, how is the support of your new husband? Congratulations, newlywed.
Oh, thank you.
Help you on the road. I mean, he has his own issues with New York, and then you have to go back together after you return and try to figure it all out.
Yeah. I'm very fortunate. So he was our music director out on tour. But we were friends first for most of my time out here. We actually did not move into anything romantic until I was slated to leave the company I left the Philip tour to go to the LA company. And so we began our relationship like right before I left the show, or this company. And, his support, I've typically hadn't dated people involved in the business, and to date someone in the business who gets the business, who gets what is required of the business, has been it was revelatory, what it meant about being able to align with our expectations of what that meant. And also, long distance is never fun, as much as we would always love to be in the same place. He's been on the road before, so he gets what it means to jump on a plane for a 24, 48-hour trip, as do I. Also, because people know him here, and he is someone that has made such an impression on this company as its original music director. It's also nice because he knows my life out on tour every day. He knows exactly who I'm speaking with. It's like, it makes a difference to feel his presence even in his absence in the building, which is really lovely. But yeah, it's been helpful it's nice to be with someone in the business who is also not in the exact same position in the business, to know that to be in a position where, because of that, like there's no pressure, like as long as the road and being with Hamilton in this position is the best thing for me, there's no expiration date on it. And as long as being away and being in New York is the best thing for him, there's no expiration. And that kind of freedom to design our relationship however we want has been so unique to this relationship, and has been really fantastic. And that's, I think, the support we give each other. 3
years ago, you were on tour. You spent your birthday in the hospital with an emergency surgery.
Yes.
How did the support of your castmates help you heal? I mean, 1 minute is, I'm going to be gone today, maybe tomorrow.
It was 6 weeks, which was so... At that time, I was covering all the sisters, right? So also to be out of like that position where like you're supposed to be the person that's there during that was really nuts and difficult. But yeah, I had a hernia, and I was actually at the theater and I had felt it, and then realized I needed to like get it attended to. I went to the emergency care the next morning. They were like, well, if if you want to get, we recommend that you get surgery, but if you don't, it'll take like 3 weeks to put you on the surgical rotation. And in the meantime, you shouldn't do the show. Or the person that would do that surgery is on call in the ER today, and we can get you scheduled in the next hour. What do you want to do? And I was like,
the next hour?
Yes, quite literally. So I was texting my stage manager and company management or PT, like, hey, I need to get this checked out. They think I have a hernia. I'm probably going to be out for the matinee at least. Okay, I'm going to be out for the show. Okay, I'm going into surgery in an hour. And like, so I mean, our physical therapist came and like sat with me in recovery. I was there overnight on my birthday because they had done the procedure so late that they didn't want to discharge me. And so then a few of my castmates showed up and surprised me, and like I was starving and they brought me food, and it was really lovely. And then throughout that 6 weeks, I actually stayed with the show and traveled with the show. I just wasn't performing. I was healing. And so it was great. Like I felt like it was telling to me that while healing from something like that, I felt the best place to heal was still with my cast and with my family on the road. They were helping me move my luggage if we had to move cities and things like that. But I thought that was really telling that like, that's where I wanted to be, even to like go through a healing process. So yeah.
Did your recovery drive you crazy?
Yes, exactly. I mean, it drove me kind of crazy because after about a week, I didn't feel anything. Like it felt like it healed very quickly, but I was not allowed to lift more than 10 pounds for 6 weeks. And so, yes, I'm a very active person. I don't like to have to, be reliant on, I drive the tour. So I actually have a lot of luggage. So to ask for help to like pack it up and unpack it was humbling. But at the same time, the recovery was very smooth. It was just, I had had to wait, which was difficult. I never had anything kind of like that took that long to heal.
Jen, on social media, you talk about the power of your father, mother, and your heritage. How has the support of your parents and your heritage helped you?
I think familial support in this kind of industry is never something to be taken for granted. There's a lot of resistance in this industry just by whoever you are in it, and then you add layers of intersectionality of, and being someone who's mixed race, and you just create more and more layers of resistance. There's a ceiling on your head about like what kind of things you can do. And so, yeah, I mean, like having people in your life, whether it's your family or your friends or whoever, to support you and understand who you are as a person beyond your identity and how you physically represent in the world is always extremely important, and helps you anchor your sense of self in a business that only looks at like one very narrow aspect of who you are. And then, with that also, just because of that, this show is just so meaningful to me. Like, I'll never forget when my dad came to see it, who has always supported me through the business, but is by no means a musical theater aficionado. And the impression it made on him, I've always kind of felt that in particular, Asian Americans are left out of any aspect of American history. There's like an erasure of the fact that we've even existed here and are a part of history. So to me, it's the specific reclamation of having a face in a historical show. Musical theater is an Americana art form, and like you base so many things in history or any shows, and then like all of a sudden the fact that we have been erased from that history, there's a double erasure because then we don't fit in so many shows. It's like, so this show in particular, where I can just be myself and is everything, where I'm not defined by my identity, but I also get to engage with who I am in a way that's meaningful, because I know I never looked on stage and saw people that looked like me growing up. I never, it's still extremely difficult to find. It's just now in the past 3 years that you can find really anything, even on TV, that has a predominantly Asian cast. I mean, it's like, it's extremely rare, and it's something that, my community struggles with visibility to this day. And so any little piece that I can have with that just makes this experience extremely meaningful.
So do you feel pride to represent your community?
Absolutely. Because it, entertainment shapes culture. Entertainment it shapes expectations. And I had left the business in New York specifically because I was tired of feeling like I could not be who I was. And I saw this show and thought, oh, that show wants me. I want that show, that I can be whoever I am in that show. And so I feel a lot of pride because I know this show changed my life. And this show helped change the expectation for representation in so many forms of media that I feel extremely proud.
Let's talk about touring. You spent about 2 weeks in each city with Hamilton. What's the one thing you try to find in each city?
Well, it used to be depending on where we were, like some kind of national park, some kind of hike. Right now in the heat in Texas, that's been a little difficult in where we are. So now it's typically finding like a really good local coffee shop, somewhere that feels like I'm the only person there that's an out of towner, that I can like sit and like read and kind of collect my thoughts for the day. Someplace that just feels, like I'm a part of the normal life of that area.
Finish this sentence. Tour life makes it hard to do what?
It makes it hard to renew your driver's license, to renew your car registration, to pay a toll. It makes it hard to go to the doctor. There's a lot of emotional things that are difficult about tour in terms of seeing your friends and your family, but it's always the logistical life things that come up that you're like, no, I don't have a primary care doctor. No, now I need a referral and go to 3 doctors because I'm not part of this medical system here. It's those things that are very difficult at times.
So Jen, what's your dream role?
I mean, Peggy and getting to do a principal in this show. This show is a dream show. And like I've been in a few positions in this show. So I like just being able to, I take a lot of pride in the trajectory here at the show where I've been a company member for a long time. I've done a good job. And then that's led to, promotions within the company. Dream job at this point would honestly be originating something that is yet to exist. I think that because it's so important to, I'm really aware of the importance now of new stories and new narratives being written by people of color, by Asian Americans, that, and that's the kind of piece those are the kind of pieces I want to be involved in the future that I kind of dream about.
Now, which song isn't one that you sing from Hamilton that's your favorite?
Probably Who Lives, Who Dies. I just love that song. It's beautiful.
How has this opportunity changed you?
It has, I have a lot of other interests. I have always been interested, honestly, in things outside of the business. But it has changed me in terms of realizing the value and the impact of entertainment specifically as a part of the cultural narrative and like the power of that. And it's really humbled me to the meaning of being an actor and being a performer, because it's not always like the first thing I identify myself as, and understanding its power has been, very transformative in that way. I approach the craft differently now because of that.
It's time for One Big Question with Jen Sese from Hamilton Beyond the Mic. Jen, you have hopes and dreams from when you were a child, with incredible banks, I might say. How has your dreams changed, and what do you want for your family's future?
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, it's something that I say many times in conversations, that I do not think that as a performer trying to have a long-term career that we prepare people for and talk about as part of what it means to have a career in the business, is that, when you're younger, it's like, I want to tick this off and this off and this off and this off. And like, I want to do like show to show to show. And as you're older, not for everybody, but for myself, I found my priorities have shifted to, I want stability. That feels so, I feel so fortunate for some stability in this business. I feel so fortunate to be able to plan for my retirement, to, make those kinds of decisions that have an effect, not just on like 1 year of my life, but like 10 or 15 years down the road. And so I would say that's honestly where I think that is part of getting older in this business, is those are the priorities that kind of shift. Am I looking for a career and like job to job to job and networking and like all of those things? Or am I looking for, the fortune of like being in a show that's very stable, especially after COVID and all of these things, and getting to, and that's like kind of how the priorities and the dreams shift. It hasn't coalesced to be completely defined, but I do think the journey of like watching those things change as you get older, like wanting to focus on being near people you love all the time, maybe not on the road, or maybe, some people wanting to be off the road so that they can pursue more of the career aspect in New York. I think those things they're personal to everybody, but I do think there is a lack of discussion when you're older when you're younger about how those things will shift, and listening to yourself and knowing that like your own journey through this business is going to be unique and not like anybody else's. And so, yeah, right now, like my goals and dreams are towards, being able to perform for as long as possible while pursuing goals of being able to have a stable life, whatever that means to me. But that's where my head's at a little more at the moment. But, I think that comes a little bit with age. Maybe not for everybody, but for myself, it has. That's how it shifted.
Jen, where can people find you online?
I have a website that's just my name @.com. I'm also on Instagram, but to be honest, I'm not super active on Instagram. So if you send me a message through Instagram, maybe I'll check it when I log in, like in like 3 or 4 weeks. I don't know. I've been kind of, as many people do, and I think we all go through phases like evaluating social media's place in my life. And it's trying to be more conscious about when I'm on it. So you can find me, it's Jen, Sese is my Instagram handle, but, very, very infrequently on there or posting.
She was on a horrible Bumble date when she got the job, loves hiking Zion National Park, made her lunch growing up, and wants to revisit Nepal. Jen Sese wants you to see Hamilton when it comes to a city near you. Jen, thanks for taking the time to talk with us today.
Oh my gosh, what fun questions. This was a really fun interview. Thank you so much.
And that, my friends, is Beyond the Mic.